And welcome back to Hannity. We are on the ground in Israel, and we continue now with part two of my exclusive interview with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We spent 2 days on the Israeli-Gaza border in Sderot, for example, a mile in between an Israeli town, city, and I spent time with the mayor and time with the police. There are two things that really stood out. Number one is the geography, how close the enemies of Israel are to you. It is.
How close? Tell your people.
A mile.
A mile?
Less than a mile.
That's kind of
less than
good.
a mile.
Mile's good.
And the other thing is the level. I was inside one of the tunnels. I know you took out close to 40 of the tunnels. I don't know if there are more. The level of sophistication. It was reinforced concrete.
Right.
It was engineered at a very sophisticated level. Those two things stood out in my trip here.
Right. Israel's, the vulnerability of Israel, its need to defend itself is not normally seen. Israel's a tiny country, you know, it's like...
It's about the size of New Jersey, everyone tells me. Yeah.
It's about the size of New Jersey. I think it's a little smaller than New Jersey, if I'm not wrong. But it's a tiny country, and imagine that New Jersey was hit by almost 4,000 rockets. And what would you do? You'd ask to act. The second thing is, you're right, they've taken all the international support and aid, all that cement that was built there.
Israeli cement.
Well, Israeli cement, and sometimes funded by foreigners, to build up a life above ground, a city above ground, and they built an underground terror city with these attack tunnels plunging into Israel for kidnap and murder and massacre. That's what they did. So, you know, we have to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But you should know that when we talk about the civilian casualties, Sean, every one of them is a tragedy. Every child loss is a tragedy. Tragedy that could have been avoided, A, if Hamas didn't use them as human shields, but also if Hamas accepted the ceasefire, the Egyptian ceasefire, which we accepted
Weeks ago,
the number of casualties, about 90% of the casualties would have been avoided had they accepted the ceasefire that they in fact accepted 2 days ago.
in many ways,
So it could all have been avoided.
do you think
We accepted it.
You did?
Hamas, yeah, we did.
did.
Then the Egyptian ceasefire.
the question in my mind,
They refused. They rejected it in 6, 7 ceasefires subsequently. We accepted. They rejected it.
the question in my mind then, they didn't accept it. They accepted it now, but they lost 40 of the tunnels, which I assume took years to build and millions and millions of dollars.
That's correct.
You have diminished their capacity to fire rockets. Do you think this is because, in that sense, Israel won this battle?
I'm not sure the battle is over. I think we've degraded their capabilities significantly. I think we've taken out the tunnels that we know about. There may be some that we don't know about. And it took them years to build. And I think they have to take into account the possibility that if they continue, we'll continue to respond. And we are organized for
Maybe soon.
it. Really depends on whether they want to continue this battle. You know, I think we have to find a peaceful solution if we can. We have nothing against the people of Gaza. In fact, we want to help the people of Gaza who are suffering under this tyranny. They basically, you know, people have come out. You know, when you had lulls, Gazan people, Palestinians, come out in Gaza, and they began to protest. And they said to Hamas, "What have you done to us? What have you done to us?" And you know what Hamas's response has been? They execute them on the spot. So this is a tyranny not only directed against us, our people, but directed against its own people. And the reason they're doing this is they think they can get away with it in the international press. That's really why they're doing it.
There's a moral issue for the United States, and I'm not going to drag you into political battles within my country, but when Mohammed Morsi, former head of the Muslim Brotherhood, became the president of Egypt, our country, the United States, gave him F-16s, tanks, and $1.5 billion. I know the United States, even though the Palestinian people voted in this coalition government with Hamas, they get tens and hundreds of millions of dollars from the United States. If that is the government that is elected by the people of these countries, morally speaking, is it right that we give them, considering Israel as our closest ally here, to give them money or arms?
I think the support that is given to our neighbors should be, is premised on the assumption that they keep the peace, that they do not violate the peace. And I think that that premise should be maintained.
You do believe that?
I think the premise should be maintained.
Even when it's violated, though?
Well, I think you should insist on it. You should, that people, you know, do not receive the assistance that was given, for example, for Egypt, was given on the assumption that you maintain the peace.
Mohammed Morsi was a man that once referred to the Israelis as descendants of apes and pigs.
Well, what you want to make sure is that the peace treaty between Israel and Egypt is maintained, and that's the premise of the American assistance to Egypt. Right. The premise of the American assistance to the Palestinian Authority is that they move towards peace with Israel, and I think these are valid premises that should be kept.
And coming up, more of my exclusive one-on-one sit-down with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin